here. I am restarting the video because it looks like maybe it didn't come over on the page. Okay, it says
That's all
I'm
right.
live. It says you're live. Let's assume we are. Um, so that's fine. I was just talking to myself. That's okay.
That's cool. It's cool.
That's cool. I do that a lot anyway. Okay. All right. I think we're good. So let me just take a moment since it looks like it didn't start correctly that
That's all right.
this is Rebecca Rathe
Hi.
and they have been kind enough to join me today for Confessions from the Book Cult, which is sort of a spin-off of our small little book club that we have going in the Reynoldsverse Discord server. We decided that we wanted answers from our authors, and I realized that I have a really great thing, which is an in with authors.
Yes.
And I like to talk process and craft, which is something that I know not everyone's into, but it kind of makes my heart happy. So that's what we're doing.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's start again with our Fast Five. This is just a bit of a warm up. So, favorite genre to write, and you said your muse is a sloppy girl.
I just go wherever my brain takes me, which is the
Mhm.
interesting places sometimes, but I have found a home in contemporary MM.
Mhm.
Um, and I really love it here. And I'm hoping that my hyperfixation stays for a long time because I'm very happy here and I've been very
Oh,
welcomed
yeah.
in the
Mhm.
community.
Hyperfixation is a good way to put it. Yeah, I can see that. Gosh, I hope it doesn't. It's not like when I get really into like one food and then I'll be in the middle of eating it and go, "Ugh,
Oh,
don't like
can't
it
have it ever
anymore."
again. Yeah.
I
I
hope that
really
doesn't
hope,
happen
I
mid-book.
hope that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Our next question is go-to writing drink, which you answered for me, but let's tell the audience again.
Anything caffeinated. It could be coffee, it could
Just
be a
me.
soda. It's usually Red
Yeah.
Bull. But I have a very unhealthy, raging caffeine addiction.
As one does. As one does in this world. Okay. Most productive time. Are you more productive writing wise in the morning and night? Do you split it up so you do like PA promo stuff at one point and then you write at others? How do you do it?
I am a lot more productive with writing at night, um,
Mhm.
which is not super healthy. I will admit to having a lot of very unhealthy kind of routines and
Like
practices.
we listen, we don't judge. Yeah, like really.
But I tend to be the most productive at night. And part of that might be because then everybody in my family is asleep and nobody's
Oh
bothering
yeah,
me
they
and I
don't
can
and
really
they don't
focus.
need us. Yeah, yeah, it's nice. Yeah. I started doing the thing when I first had children. And I have two who have grown and flown. But I started doing the thing of staying up really late because it was the only time that I had for me and sacrificing sleep, of course, because then I get up at 6 and get them ready for school or whatever.
Mhm.
And that has just become like I've carried that out now to writing. Now I do the same thing. I'm, 11:30 at night typing away. Nobody can bother me now.
And
Yeah.
when I'm really in the middle of a story, I will maybe sometimes get 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night because again, I
Hmm.
get up at
Hmm.
6 a.m. to get everybody ready
Yeah.
for school and do all the mom
Hmm.
things. And so yeah,
Hmm.
it gets pretty unhealthy. Usually by like the third or fourth day is when I start getting really weird, and then I have to take a night off and try to catch up and get my brain rewired.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we all just kind of live with sleep deficits our whole
Pretty
lives,
much.
especially
Yeah.
moms, I think, or parents really, but let's be honest, probably moms. Um,
Yeah.
okay. Our next one will be, hero or villain.
Anti-hero.
And no, there we go. Morally gray, static white. Yeah. Anti-hero. Okay. I like that. So like redeemable asshole would be
Sure. I
yours.
mean,
No?
I think there's sometimes there's not a clear answer. Sometimes you just are who you are, and maybe you do bad things for good reasons or good
Hmm.
things for bad
For
reasons.
bad reasons. Right. I think that's absolutely true. Okay. And then I was going to ask, would you rather write, and I think I have the answer to this now. Would you rather write MM or group scenes?
Probably MM at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the moment. Yeah. Okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense. So we were talking in the green room, let's call it, uh, about the idea of genre hopping. And I just want to kind of just start right there because I find it really interesting looking back at your body of work. You have done contemporary white shoes or poly contemporary. You've done MM, of course. Forbidden Goals is fantastic. You've also done, let's see, the the paranormal reverse harem white shoes right. That's actually how I found you. Um, and have you also done MF? I don't remember if I've seen any
I
MF.
have not done any strict MF.
Okay.
I have a menage where there's not any sword
Hmm.
crossing, and that's probably the only one.
It's as close as we get. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And I've seen that you've done some dark romance, you've done some lighter, fluffy stuff. So how do you, I guess this would be probably question number three or two, which is like, tell me about your muse. Like, how does this work for
I,
you?
you were talking about like talking about people's processes
Mhm.
and things like
Yeah.
that, and I really find
Yeah.
that fascinating also. But
Yeah.
for
Hmm.
me personally, is that I don't have one.
You don't have a process?
I don't have a strict
Hmm.
process or a
Okay.
strict go to anything. I just kind of go wherever my brain takes me, and I get stuck
Hmm.
on an idea, something sparks something,
Hmm.
and I get stuck on an idea and I just follow it.
Okay. And
So
then
yeah.
this actually it connects a little bit to you seem to be a very prolific writer, at least to me. You put out a lot of books, and not short ones. You know, that was like a 8 hour read the other day. So, so my question is, how do you stay very kind of chaotic on, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to write what I want to write and also stick to a release schedule and like the idea of queuing up three more books in a series, like just like, oh, those are some good ideas. I'll do those too. It like kind of terrifies me. Like,
It is terrifying, but I kind
Mhm.
of work, and I think that there are a lot of people that I can't remember if we said it in the green room or if I said it
Yeah.
as part of this,
Hmm.
but I am on the ASD spectrum. I have very
Hmm.
severe ADHD. And
Hmm.
one thing that tends to work for some people like me is that when you do have
Hmm.
like a due date for something, even if you procrastinate it for a long time, it's like a
Hmm.
superpower. You're gonna get it done.
Right.
Um,
Hmm. No, I
and
know. I
I
know.
do
Yeah.
have a pretty high level of hyper focus, which
Yeah.
helps,
Hmm.
which is why I am able to write so quickly. It's because when I'm in the middle of writing, when I'm in a writing phase, that's really all I'm doing. I'm not necessarily the best mother or partner during those times. I'm not always the best friend,
Yeah. Hmm.
because that's where my brain lives, and I can't really function or do anything else during those
No,
times.
yeah,
So,
I absolutely, yeah, I get that.
yeah, it's all hyper focus.
It's all hyper focus. It's my superpower.
It is. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I
it
used to
is.
think
Yeah.
of it as, this this job is really the first time in my life where I've been able to rein things in such a way that makes it beneficial. There are a
Hmm.
lot of things about my personality or about
Hmm.
the way my brain works that have held me back for a lot of my life, and this is really the first time starting this, doing this is really the
Hmm.
first time that those things have been
No,
uh
I know
yeah,
I know
helpful.
exactly what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, for me, it's I've been fairly successful. I'm a good masker too. At the various things that I've done throughout my life. I was pretty successful in school. I was, I've been able to do things. But this is the first time that my like wild imagination and my ability just to talk shit constantly has
Yes.
really come in hand. Like my ability just to just take something and run with it long past the point where anyone is even casually
Yes.
interested. I mean, yes, yes, yeah. I still have those moments. It's been about 2 years since I released my first book, and I still have those moments of like, how can all these people be even a little bit interested in the
Yes.
stuff I started 2 years ago? Like,
Everybody else is just tired of my bullshit, but the
yeah, I
internet
know, but oh my
loves
God, I've
me.
got a whole group here who want to hear more. Yeah, yeah, totally. No, I understand what you're saying. And also for me, at least, and I've said this before, but I come back to it is this is the first job, career, whatever you want to call it, that I've done where it does not matter what I look like. It does
Yes.
not matter how I present myself. Um, I have kind of, I don't know how to say it without sounding like an asshole,
I just
but
go for it. I'm
I
a big fan of just
I've had some
letting it
pretty
out.
privilege over my life that has
Yeah.
impacted me in weird ways. Mostly in the way of like, I don't feel like I get taken seriously. And the fact that it doesn't matter who wrote those books, that you love them no matter what that person looked like, what that person did, what they wore that day, if they got their
Yeah.
hair washed. I fucking love that. I do.
I
It's
love
it's
that too. It
fantastic.
doesn't occur to me when I'm reading a book that what the author looks like. Like,
Why would it? I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean, at some level, I'm like, like Tate James, like she's pretty hot. But like
oh
I
yeah,
have
well
those
then I see
moments.
a picture of
Yeah.
them, I'm like, damn.
Damn, yeah, they're kind of hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I don't know if that's just my, overactive bisexual brain working, but it's yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have those moments, but for the most part, no. I mean, I could care less. I
Yeah.
mean, and just knowing that I'm not getting any kind of buff, you know,
Yeah.
for having, even features or whatever, kind of makes me happy. It's
Yeah.
been a strange thing. And that it took me to be like 52 before I got there is kind of
Yeah.
sad, but yeah. Yeah.
I'm a
All
lot
right.
healthier than I was when I started, but I
Mhm.
definitely think that was a part of it where I was at a point in my life where I was not feeling very confident in myself. There was a lot going on. It was the end of
Mhm.
it was lockdown, lockdown, and I was
Yes.
getting over, if you can get over postpartum,
The COVID. Yeah.
and
Oh, postpartum too.
I
Yeah,
mean, I
fun.
have since lost about 50 pounds, and I mean that in like a healthy way, not in a what I look like way, but like
Mhm.
my acne got really bad, and it was nice
Mhm.
not having to be a pretty person
Yeah.
to do this
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I do not look pretty when I press the submit on a manuscript, that's for sure. It's usually after not sleeping for 3 days, and
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I've been wearing the same shirt for God knows how long.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
Um, but nice to be evaluated on what's inside your head. That's all I think I'm
Yes.
getting to. Yeah.
And to be
Okay.
appreciated for those quirks that
For
maybe have
sure.
not been
Yeah.
appreciated throughout our lives.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and especially if you were somebody who uses smutty romance as an escape hatch, which I mean so many of us do.
Yeah.
It's like such an easy way to kind of get a quick burst of endorphins, and
Yes.
without having to like go for a run or something stupid, that
Gross. Gross.
that it's really nice to feel like you're putting some of it back out there. For
Yes.
me, I feel like I've
Yeah.
I've taken so much from the well that I'm finally like adding some back.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm checking to see if we have, let's see, I see lots of people are reacting. All right, we've got Chloe, and it looks like Mary, and Liz Simmons. Oh, Rebecca Dixon. Hi, Rebecca.
Hey.
Wow, so many people. Thank you guys. Okay, well, let's give them something good. Let's put on a show.
All
All
right.
right. Okay, so let me ask you about your characters.
Okay.
I usually am able to read a few books and kind of put together in my head this is the kind of characters that this person writes. You're going to see the same archetypes over and over again. I have a little trouble doing that with you. I do not see the same archetypes over and over again. Your main male characters sound different to me. The female main characters that I've read sound different to me. I'm not saying they would sound that I'm not saying that everyone writes the same character over and over again,
No,
but
but
usually I can
usually
find
there's a
those.
style. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm really not seeing that for you. So is that just more of the ASD spectrum muse on a
possibly. I have
yeah.
a very active imagination, and all of these people have very real voices and personalities in
Hmm.
my head.
Yeah.
And I'm really just watching as it happens and typing it
Yeah,
out.
I call it live tweeting.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm
exactly.
standing in a room with them and I'm watching it like in my brain. I have that kind of whatever the hell it's called, where you can see it like a film.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it and I'm like I'm like a court reporter, like a stenographer sitting there taking notes like on what everybody's
I'm
saying.
like that
And
without the
yeah.
visualization because whatever it's called antiphagia. I don't
Yeah.
visualize
You
at
don't
all.
visualize. Okay.
But they're all very real people with real
Yeah.
backgrounds and real motivations in my head. And I think
Hmm.
that I'm really glad that comes across that way.
It does. It
It makes me
absolutely
feel
does. And
good.
you write some and you write your dialogue is just very, very believable. The pauses. I was thinking about it the other day when I was finishing up Off Balance that that's if I had to like pick one thing. I mean, you do a lot of things very beautifully, but if I had to pick one thing, I would say your dialogue is just it's snappy and it's never too many words and it if it's if it's a little hokey for a minute, it's on purpose. You know what I mean? It's really it's well done. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you I might be are you a plotter, a pantser, a planster? How do you structure the novel before you start?
I don't, I don't like, I always feel bad when I'm talking, because like I said, I
Hmm.
love hearing about other people's processes. I want to be a plotter,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
have done things where I've plotted things out, and then I just go off the rails within like 2 pages, and all of that was just wasted work. Um,
Yeah,
but so I just kind of, how do I
you and
just go
I are
with
the
it?
same. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
just go with
mhm.
it.
Yeah, I wrote my first book like front to back without ever thinking about what was going to happen next. It was just an evolution of what was the next thing that popped into my brain. I didn't know how to write a book. I just thought that's how you did it. And then and then I hit the second book and I was like, "Huh, I'm going to have to go back and remember what I wrote so that it doesn't like deviate too much." And then I
Series.
started
I'm
think,
always so
yeah.
impressed with people that can write series, and like
Hmm.
the binding. The
Hmm.
Progeny for me wasn't really a series. It was one
Hmm.
continuous story, and I stopped at some point. And the only reason I stopped is because people on the internet told me that no one would read a book that was that long. So, and now I know better. But
And
at
now
the
you
time I didn't
know.
know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Hmm.
but the binding was a purposeful trilogy, and that was
Right.
that was an exercise for me. Yeah,
Yes,
because
yes,
I
yes,
don't
absolutely.
remember things well. I would
I
have to
I've
go back.
gotten I'm learning, I'm kind of we would call it like in the business world, I'm like setting up my systems as I'm going because I didn't know how to do any of this. Like the next time if I ever do another big series, I'm gonna like have a book Bible from the very beginning. I'm gonna keep my character sheets where I can find them. I'm going to be so organized, but I still probably will not be following an outline because, yeah, I'm not very good at it.
I set up a whole
I,
system with a
yeah.
therapist, and some of it's back here,
Hmm.
but it's all
It
crap.
looks really
It's
good.
like it looks nice, but there's nothing here because
Okay. It's
like
kind of window dressing, but yeah, okay.
yeah, that's just trash, honestly. That's recycling. Um, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
I start I start with good
Mhm.
intentions.
Good intentions will get us so far. Yeah, it's true. Okay, so you are really, really, truly a pantser. I think
Yeah.
you're maybe the first one well, no, Mary also pants pretty hard. Um, I do a thing where I just go like, I want the book to end like this. and I kind of write an outline of what the ending scene is going to be, and then I write to it. And that's about all I do.
That's cool though. And I think that that shows a really impressive level of control. Um, to be able to
Sometimes.
aim your story in a certain way. I have no control.
I feel like I'm on like the freaking Titanic trying to adjust it by degrees sometimes,
Right?
you know,
Yeah.
like
I have
yeah,
zero control
yeah,
over
yeah.
any of anything.
Anything, yeah.
Just
Well,
anything.
I think that's funny because then you naturally write a really beautiful three act story, which is like hard to do even with planning. So good for you. Like
That
the
makes me
beats
feel
have to
good because
be,
that was one thing in the like list of questions where you're asking about. I don't even really understand like the the beats or the three acts. I don't understand what they are, what they're supposed to
but
be. I've tried
you've
to
read
understand.
you've read a thousand of
Yeah.
these stories. So
So,
you've got
yeah.
it's like bedded in your brain. Yeah.
As far as like the organizational plot points
Hmm.
of it, I have zero clue. I just
Yeah, I'm interested in like how it's supposed to be done so that I can do it kind of not that way. So yeah. But I didn't go to school to write, so I mean it's not like I'm
either.
not somebody coming out of here with like a lot of information about it. Okay. Okay, do you can you share any techniques that you use for writing dialogue that feels authentic and engaging? Like I said, I really am impressed with your dialogue. Do you have any techniques? Do you ever talk it out loud or
I think I just, yeah, I always feel terrible when I'm answering questions like this because I don't have any straightforward answers. I really just
yep,
type it. I just hear
that's
it. I
fine.
hear it.
Yep.
And because
Hmm.
they are so real
Hmm.
in my head, there are real people in my head and they're having a conversation. And I think
Hmm.
that thinking of them as real people, imagining them as real people, treating them as real
They
people,
have their
then
own
maybe
yeah.
that comes across a certain way.
Yeah, I would say if I had to answer that, I was just thinking it would be hard for me too because I'm kind of the same way. But if I hit a block, which for me, I never really understood what the word writer's block meant because I was like, when would I not be able to come up with something to write, you know? But if I hit a block where like they just stop talking, like I'm listening and then we hit a part of the conversation and everyone kind of looks at each other and I go, come on, guys, what's okay? That's like a bit of a block. So I find going for like a drive in my car for some reason, like driving for some reason seems to get me thinking again. Also, hot showers. Don't know
Oh
why.
yeah, you always think of good
Yeah.
things in the shower.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hot showers and long car drives. That seems to help. Okay. What are the hardest scenes for you to write? So, what is the scene that you put off? Do you write what would we call that? Would you do you write straight through or do you write out of order?
I generally write straight through.
Hmm.
I have tried where like if I'm at a scene that I'm having a tough
Hmm.
time with, people say, okay, well, write something that's the easiest for you, or, you
Yeah,
know, skip to another part. And I really struggle with that.
because then it's different
Um,
when you get there. You're like, oh, this
yes,
doesn't work at all now.
exactly. So I've done that just like as a
Hmm.
practice to kind of like keep my fingers moving.
Hmm.
But then I end up not using that bit that I wrote or using it at a
Hmm.
different place. I struggle the most, I think, probably with like transitional scenes. Like, I know
Leaving,
that we need to
coming
get
and
from
going,
here.
coming and
Now we
going.
need to
Yep.
get from here, but how do I get there without,
Yeah, talking about it the whole way. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I get it. The entrances and exits are really difficult for me too. And a lot of times I just don't write them. I just have everybody kind of just just stop talking and then
yeah.
we move to the
All
next
right, we're done with
scene.
that. On to the next
We're
thing.
done. Right. I don't need to talk about what happened there. Yeah. Um, I have started, I didn't in the first two books, but I have begun to do this thing where I will just say insert sex scene here or insert fight and
Yeah,
then just keep going. I tried doing something called a skeleton draft on the last book, and it was kind of helpful, kind of not. The idea of not having to get every chapter completely perfect before getting to the next one, which was a bit of a problem for me. I write things to like, I'm ready to send this to my editor for each chapter, which takes a while, and then the next one. And so on the last book, I did do the skeleton draft thing where you just kind of word vomit what you think you might want to be in the chapter, write a few lines of dialogue and move on. And for that, I did a lot of that insert. So what I ended up with was I ended up with 4 sex scenes to write at the end of the book.
So the sex scenes are always
Uh,
the easiest for me. I don't like
yeah.
I always have trouble with all the stuff in
Mhm.
between, but like those are always the easiest ones, easiest
I
parts for me.
I find the one-on-one is pretty easy. Two on one, not too bad. It's those like 4-person ones that are just a lot of blocking. Um, and I also had in this last one, I had a lichen bonding thing with like this monstrous wolf thing that I had been putting off as well because I knew there was going to be a lot of magic and stuff happening around in the edges of it, and I just didn't want to write it. So, so I wrote that like one of the last things. Yeah. Okay, so your favorite scenes to write. What are your favorite ones? So the hardest
Probably,
ones are
yeah,
Mhm.
the hardest ones are the those transitional scenes. I think probably the spice scenes are actually the easiest for me.
Okay. Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I'm a
No,
professional
I
pervert for
get
all
that.
intents and purposes. So,
I
I
do
find
think
those the
they
easiest to write.
I do think once you get into the flow of them, they're fast.
Yeah.
Like, you know? And I also feel like maybe because you're not having to convey as much plot, they might be easier because you're really kind of just watching a thing happening, kind of,
Yes.
you know?
And then
Yeah.
also like because like I said, I can't visualize. So this is a fun fact.
Yeah.
When I need a certain position or
Hmm.
something to happen in a certain way, and I want to give enough detail without like,
Right.
you know, like show don't tell.
Yeah.
Um, I actually look it up
Hmm.
and I get real close to the screen and I watch a lot of porn.
Yeah.
Like,
I was
like
waiting. I was like,
because
she's gonna at
yeah,
any
I
moment, she's
need
gonna
to
be
see
like,
it,
and
especially because I am writing like MM scenes.
yeah. Mhm.
You know, I don't have a,
I think this is well,
you
this
know,
is a perfect segue
yeah.
into let me skip on down here. Um, one of our questions in our book cult was how do you approach incorporating diverse identities and experiences into your MM romances, particularly those outside your own experience?
I think
So
this is
good
an
question.
important question. It's an important discussion. I know it's been
Yeah.
all over, social
Hmm.
media, especially with the women writing MM,
Hmm.
men writing women, you
Yeah.
know, people
Which
writing
has been
outside their
going
own
on
experiences.
forever. Yeah.
For
Hmm.
me personally, I lean on people whose voices that I'm representing. So I have sensitivity readers.
Hmm.
I am lucky to have grown up in the gay community. And I
Hmm.
have a diverse friend group, and
Yeah.
I have a lot of men that are very
Hmm.
open and honest with me and let me ask them very intrusive questions, and actually love it for the most
I
part.
was gonna say most of the gay men I've been friends with really wouldn't have a problem talking about this stuff, but
Exactly. And I mean, I have a couple of
it's fine.
friends
It's
that
up to the
don't love
individual.
talking about that,
Yeah,
but
sure, sure.
and
Yeah.
especially since head in the game, I've expanded
Hmm.
that community, and
That's great.
I
Hmm.
have met new people out in the reader
Hmm.
universe, and some of those men have become um,
Hmm.
an an extra resource for me.
That's great. Yeah.
And so I think leaning on people from those communities,
Hmm.
and always writing from a position of awareness. I am aware that I am representing a community that I am not technically part of. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter what kind of life I've lived. It doesn't, my own queerness does not even
Hmm.
factor because I have lived a life as a cis woman, and
Hmm.
I don't have those parts, and that's not a relationship that I have dealt with.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am a very white person. I'm extra white. And so it is important to me to represent I want diversity in my characters and in my stories because my
Yeah.
life
Hmm.
is diverse. The people
Hmm.
around me are diverse. My life isn't whitewashed, and
Hmm.
I don't want my books to be whitewashed either. But I lean on
No,
those
I appreciate
communities.
it.
I
Yeah.
lean on those friends. Um, and I expect them to be, like they're very honest and blunt with me. So,
Good, good, good. Yeah, that's really good answer, I think. It is hard because I personally think that representation is really, really important. I think that being able to see yourself in media, in creative endeavors is really, really important. I have a non-binary person in my series, and I've received quite a few letters over the last 2 years from people saying thank you and I feel represented and it's so good to read this and this felt very real to me. Um, and you're supposed to write what you know, and I definitely don't really know what it would be like to be non-binary. So I did. I got a sensitivity reader. I talked to a lot of my kids' friends. I did what I could do. Um, and it would have been easier not to have that person there for a lot of
yeah,
reasons, because I've had a lot of reviews where people didn't like that and people complained about it and they didn't like to have to deal with the pronouns. And, it would have been maybe simpler, but not the story that was in my head. And, yeah, I think sometimes you have to be willing to make a mistake. I would imagine at some point somebody will find something they don't like in my books, and that's fine.
100%. You
Um,
have to be
I
willing to, I think
Yeah,
it's important as
yeah.
writers in general, even when you're not writing diversity specifically,
Mhm.
but you put yourself out there and you have to be able to take critique.
Or
And some
yes. Mhm.
people are awful with that critique, and you have to be ready for that. You have to have a tough skin.
Yeah.
Um, but specifically, I think you have to listen with the intent to do better.
Yeah, to change and
Um,
to be willing to learn.
yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can
Um,
never go in thinking that
yeah.
you know
And
everything.
I've
And
made
yeah.
mistakes and I've made
Hmm.
changes to some of my books here and there. And I've also,
Hmm.
I mean, I had one instance where a reader was very excited to read a book of mine
Hmm.
and I sent it to them. And they put out like a big TikTok video, like unboxing, and were super, super excited about it. But then they came back and they said, I have to take that back and I have to make a statement about this because I feel like this
Hmm.
particular part was harmful. And the most interesting part of that is that the things that she found harmful were things about my own identity. Um,
Hmm.
she found some of the rhetoric around the fact that it was my book Revelations, and she found some of the rhetoric around the main character being a fat woman,
Yeah.
to be what she felt was harmful, and then also some of the demisexual representation. And so
Hmm.
I had to take that and I had to sit with it. And
Hmm.
in that case, I did not make changes because I felt as a person that
Yeah.
represents both of those um,
Hmm.
communities, that
Hmm.
the things that were said were
Yeah.
realistic, and then also did have that person just chose not to finish the book, and I totally respected
Hmm.
that,
Yeah.
but they didn't get to see the outcome and the healing
Hmm.
from those things. So I think that sometimes you just have to listen to your gut, but
Yeah. Yeah.
when it comes to voices outside of
Hmm.
your own experiences, you have to be willing to listen to those voices ahead of your own.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. I think that's entirely correct. I know the biggest complaint I've had on House of Marches has been about Javier, my non-binary person. Not about them being non-binary, which has had a lot of back and forth with people, but about a particular line that I included as a person with a psychology degree who's in her 50s, where back in I'd say the 2000s and the 1990s, we believed, we're told in school that that when there was child abuse, when a person went through a lot of trauma as a child, that it could stilt their emotional growth, like at that age. It was like a common, like everybody knows that,
Yeah.
sometimes, if something terrible happens when you're 14, you might never get beyond 14 emotionally. It's kind of BS. When I started thinking about it, I was like, it kind of doesn't really make sense, but it was really common held wisdom when
Yeah.
I was in school. And I made the mistake of making a comment in the book about how this character who is 20 is emotionally around 14 or 15 because of what happened to them.
Yeah.
And that has gotten me, I'd say 10 or 15 one-star reviews, that single line, even though they have, of course, matured, they were of age. People saw it as literally this person wasn't deserving of a sex life because they were emotionally underage. And I really fought with it and like, am I going to change this? Am I going to keep it? How am I going to handle this? I'm not like overly attached to the line. It could easily be pulled out. But at the same time, I really feel like it almost is saying that people who have gone through trauma as children are not deserving of adult relationships, which was the part that I kept getting stuck on. So as of right now, it's still in book one, but it may end up coming out in the next edit. I'm not really
I think
sure.
sometimes as authors also it's really hard to
Yeah.
portray, and
Hmm.
sometimes you start at
Yeah.
a spot, especially when it's in the own character, when it's in your character's
Hmm.
head or it's something that is said to them, and then that's a growth point.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so sometimes it's hard because you can't just stop and say, this is what this character thinks right now. This is what's going on in
Right.
this character's
Yeah.
mind
Yeah.
right now. Stick around for the growth. Some people
Right.
aren't going to stick
Yeah.
around for that. And so, like what happened specifically with the demisexual representation
Hmm. Yeah.
in Revelations is that one of the other characters, they're bad guys, okay?
Hmm.
And one of the guys makes a joke that this character is broken
Okay.
because he doesn't feel attraction to this succubus. Okay. He says that he's broken. And I used that as a growth point because I have been told in my own life that I am broken because I don't experience attraction the same way somebody else does,
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
because it takes me, because
Hmm.
because it's different. But that was a growth point. So
Right.
you have to decide, are you going
Hmm.
to let your readers
Yeah.
experience that
Hmm.
growth with the character, or or
Hmm.
are you going to it's important to listen to your readers, and especially when it's somebody that is in that
Right.
marginalized community and you
Hmm.
listen to them and it was this thing harmful to that community.
Yeah. Hmm.
But
Absolutely.
also, sometimes things are a journey. And
Yeah.
literally, like if that person had continued to read, they would have understood where that was coming
Yeah,
from.
yeah.
It's
There's almost
really
like
hard.
there's
It's
almost
a
a
balancing
sadness. Like
act.
you're like, wow, I really wish that you had stuck with it because
Yeah.
you see how that's just
But I'm
not
not gonna,
true.
I,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Okay, let me move on. Okay, which book's reception surprised you the most? Which one do you
Head in
think
the game.
head in the game? Okay, tell me
Yeah.
how was that? Was that exciting?
It was. So I started in my author career, I started with White Shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big MM reader before. I read a lot of White Shoes also, but I loved MM. My first book series, Progeny, it almost became the Micah and Lucas show because I loved their story specifically so much. I had to take out a lot, so much so that I was able to give them a prequel novella. Um, but I really wanted to write MM, but I was
Hmm.
very afraid of writing outside of writing in a marginalized, and I witnessed a lot of cis
Pushback,
women
yeah.
writing
Yeah.
MM
Hmm.
in ways that I found was not great, and
Hmm.
sometimes it was great, but I was afraid. Um, but
Yeah.
I was actually part of a shared world project called the Groveton College
Hmm.
series, and it was a funny story because it was actually when I was approached with it, I came up with this whole storyline. I can't even remember all the details, but I was actually going to try to write my first MF.
Uh-huh.
And I had, picked a storyline in my head. I picked faculty member in my head. I had a certain date that it was going to be ready.
Mhm.
Around that time, um, so I at some point, so I told them all of this, and they're like, "Yeah, that's great, that's great."
Mhm.
But then they put up a sign up form for like faculty member and then your release dates and stuff.
Mhm.
But when they put it up, I it was during a period where my power was out for like 3 days because we had a hurricane.
Oh, did everybody take up the other ones and you
And
ended
so
up with one?
everything got signed up for.
Oh.
Um, but the men's sports was
Mhm.
not spoken for. And I was actually a huge college football fan.
Oh,
My
okay.
family, it's a big
Okay.
college football family. I went to the university, I dropped out, but I went to the University of Alabama. And
Roll
everybody in
Tide.
my family are
Okay.
huge Tide fans. Okay. Like just it's a family, it's in the
Yeah.
bloodline.
I was
Okay.
UGA, so yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. You understand that the SEC
Uh-huh,
runs
I do.
thick.
Mhm.
And so I was like, you know what?
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I could be wrong. Of the people that I knew there, I was like, who's going to know more about college sports than me?
Mhm.
And also, there was no representation at that point. Like
Okay.
everything was pretty MF, and I think there was some Y
Melish.
choose in
Yeah.
there, but
Mhm.
at the time there was no queer representation. So I was like, you know what? Why not? Let's try it.
Mhm.
I'm gonna write because it needed to be dark,
Mhm.
and I'm not unless it's paranormal, I'm not actually very good at contemporary dark. So but I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? College football, I know. And we
Mhm.
need some representation in here. So I'm going to try my hand at it. I really expected it to flop.
Mhm.
I really did. Um, I enjoyed writing it. I actually
Mhm.
struggled with parts of it. I really struggle with working with other people. And I also had to write it much faster than I anticipated because the date that I originally was not supposed to release until like early 2024, but I ended up with
Mhm.
an October 2023
Oh, okay.
release date. So I wasn't ready. And I think that that's actually one reason why it was very spice heavy was because it was the easiest for me to
Because you were
write.
like,
But
oh, I'll just add another.
yeah, it was so much fun though. I like, I loved their
Yeah.
story and it was fun to write. And I really expected it to not go anywhere. I was really
And
surprised.
then people really liked it, huh?
Yeah, and they liked it so much. And it wasn't just, I mean, the whole MM reader community as a whole
Mhm.
is a revelation. They're amazing. They're
Mhm.
If they like something, they share it. They're going to get all their friends to read it. They're
It's
going to
true.
tell
Yeah.
everybody about it. They're going to be in your
They're
inbox.
mhm.
Okay.
They're really, really, I don't want to say I don't want to say this in a bad way, but it almost feels like they're really thirsty for good quality stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and I
they're
feel
just
like
amazing.
the really good writers are not writing in MM except like for you and a couple of other ones, but there aren't tons of them. Like there are in MF and like there are in Winchell's, you can name 60 writers that are doing excellent work. You
Yeah.
can't really do that. And I think that it shows in how hungry MM audience really seems to
They
be.
really are. And I mean, when
Hmm.
they love something. And it was not just the
Hmm.
whole community of readers, because I mean, most romance readers, like just on a,
Hmm.
what's the word? Statistically are women.
Yes,
But
absolutely. Like 99.9%. Yeah.
I had men in my inbox. Not like gross men
Yeah.
though, like gay men that were read the book and thought that it was well done. And they
So
encouraged me to write
gratifying. Hmm.
more. So that's how the Forbidden Goals series became a thing,
Hmm.
is because they wanted more and I loved
Hmm.
writing it. And this is kind of where I wanted to be in the first place. So I made it a series.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I'm so glad it's done well for you. And I'm glad that it was must have been like a really exciting time to put out something and see it hit really hard and be like,
It
this
really
is
was. It
yeah,
really
I'm where I
was.
need to be. I'm in the right spot now, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know I'm still kind of looking for my spot, but I see you. All right. What is something about you that you think might surprise your readers?
Apparently, it's surprising that I'm a mom. I mean, if you're in
Oh.
my Facebook group, then you know because I talk about my kids and they've been on like,
Hmm.
if my Facebook lives, I'll let them come on camera sometimes and they'll
Hmm.
do drawings and stuff like that. But apparently, outside of that, it's surprising to people that I'm a mom. I have two young boys. They're 9 and 6.
Wow.
One of them says
Yeah.
hi.
Well,
Um,
I'm a grandma. I now have a 5-month-old grandchild.
that's amazing.
Woo.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm very
apparently
excited.
that's surprising. It's
Hmm.
been such a big part of my personality for so long, like until I started writing,
Right, that you were mom, so it's been
that's all I
interesting to
was.
have. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
for a long
Totally get you.
time, I completely lost my identity. And, like writing really brought me back to myself. But like I've
Hmm.
only been that for so long that it's funny to
Hmm.
me that there are people out there that don't know that.
All right, I'm going to check and see if we have any questions because we
Sure.
only have about 10 minutes left, and I think we talked too long.
Hi.
We didn't get to everything. But let me see if we have any questions rolling up here. Um, yeah, if anybody has any questions, just go ahead and ask now, and I will share them. Um, okay, notifications.
I'm doing my interview. So you can't come on the screen because it'll be on the internet.
No internet for you. All right. So let's see. It looks like to do newest comments. How about that? Um, just a lot of very nice comments. I'm not seeing any major questions. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to ask you some more of my questions.
That's all right.
I have a bunch. Okay, so one thing I definitely want to get to is, okay, so you're in the MM universe, you're in Forbidden Goals. You said, I think, just a couple of days ago that you have 3 more books planned for Forbidden Goals. Is that correct?
Yes. So originally it was going to be 6 books, but I've had a lot
Hmm.
of requests for specific
Hmm.
sports.
Sports,
So I
yeah.
added 3 more on.
Hmm.
So the last one of the originally planned ones will be out in March, and that'll be
Hmm.
basketball. But for next year, we're adding a hockey
Hmm.
because
Hockey. I
people
know
are
people
hockey.
really,
I
really want
spec
hockey.
Is so funny because I specifically did not put a hockey book because I felt like there's
It's really
so
getting
much hockey
done.
out
Yeah,
there
there's a
and it's
lot. Yeah.
been done and it's been done well, especially in MM. Like
Yeah,
hockey
yeah.
has been done and it has been done very, very well. And I don't believe in competition. Um, but it's been done and it's been done so well. I don't think that I can
Yeah,
add
you'd like to
anything
try
to
something
this,
different. Yeah, yeah,
but
absolutely.
people are they are rabid for hockey.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna do a hockey book. I'm gonna do
Hmm.
a gymnastics. The
Yeah.
gymnastics book, it might also encompass other Olympic sports. I don't know
Ah.
yet
Hmm.
because I'm not there yet.
Are
But
you, so
gym,
is it going to be at the Olympics, like
it,
in the
I
Olympics
think
Village
so.
sort of situation?
I had a lot of requests during the last Olympics for books about people like Tom Daly with this crochet, and then the gymnast with the big nerdy glasses and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
um, so I was like, I can do that. I really like, especially the nerdy gymnast guy. And then we're also
Hmm.
going to do collegiate wrestling.
Oh, fun. Hot. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Okay, so that's do you have anything beyond that? Do you have any other shared universes, any co-writes planned, anything else?
I am going to be doing some charity anthologies this year. One of
Okay.
them is actually
Hmm.
about to come out on the 19th. That one, 100%, the Rage anthology is going
Mhm.
to come out on the
Very good. Yep.
19th, and it 100% of the proceeds from that are going to go to the Chicago Abortion Fund. And then I'm
Very good.
also going to be doing the We Shall Rise
Hmm.
anthology, and it's been put into two categories. There's a women's rights, and then
Hmm.
there's an LGBTQ. So I'm going to be doing the LGBTQ. And then I've been wrestling back and forth on signing up for another one. My plate's pretty full though. Um,
When has that
but
stopped you?
so I'm going to be doing a few anthologies. I am not doing any co-writes. I don't know that I will ever do a co-write. I
Yeah.
not because like I'm a total asshole or anything like that, but I don't really work well with others. I think I would drive another person crazy because I just kind of go off the
I don't have
rails.
any ability. I don't have any ability to stick to a script or to stop jumping
I don't
around
think
and
that
fixing
somebody else
things.
would
And
want to work with me.
yeah, I
Not
don't
that I'm
know.
a mean person or anything like that, but like my poor PA, she's freaking superwoman. But I just kind of go
Hmm.
off the rails and she's like, I would have liked to announce this. Like, and I'm
Oh, yeah. I don't know what that's like at all,
I
Chloe.
yeah,
What's that like?
I just kind of do my thing and I change so
Hmm.
much. I don't
Hmm.
think that I don't think that another person would want to
Hmm.
work with me.
Well, I have made a list of 5 sports that I would like you to consider in the future.
Okay, I gotta get a notepad.
Okay.
Go
Okay.
for it.
So this is kind of tongue in cheek, so you probably won't. The first one I'd like to consider is competitive chess. And
Ooh.
let me point out that there was a scandal with somebody with a vibrating butt plug that was getting moves sent to him over Wi-Fi using that. Maybe something you could do with that.
I love that.
Also competitive eating.
Mm.
There we go.
Hot
Right.
dog eating championship.
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm on that wavelength.
Okay. Rodeo clowns. Think
Rodeo
about rodeo
clowns.
clowns. Yes. Um, Curling. And I can almost see the cover for that of like the two guys like, like pushing looking at each other.
I like it.
And last, dog shows. Like we never have any
Oh, like
kind
a
of an
best
MM
in
about
show, but
a best in
like
show, but MM.
MM. I
Yeah,
love
yeah, yeah.
that.
There you go.
I kind of love that one actually. These are good.
You could do a grumpy sunshine that would just blow everyone's mind with a best in show thing. And
Yes.
people love dogs. So see, I'm giving you
I love
ideas before we
dogs,
have to
don't I?
go.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay. I think that we're just about done. We've just hit 4 o'clock. And I
It went
got
by
through
fast.
basically 10% of our list, but that's okay.
That's all right.
I want to say thank you, Miss Rebecca, for coming and spending time with me.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
It has been a lot of fun. Hopefully, maybe, are you going to be at any cons in the next year? Are you planning to attend anything?
Yes, I am
What?
going to 4 events this year. I'm going to Queers and Quills in Portland, which I'm
Um,
super excited about.
I think Althea is going to be
I'm,
there too. Mhm.
oh my gosh. I am like some authors that I'm like obsessed with are going. So I'm going to be super awkward. It's going to be awesome. I'm also going to do Beyond the Reader event in Columbus, Ohio. I'm very excited
Okay.
about
Hmm.
that. I'm going to do Sinful Signings, which I've done since their first year. They are an
Hmm. Hmm.
amazing signing. I love them. I
Hmm.
love the
And where are they?
organizers. That one's in Roanoke, Virginia.
Roanoke. Yes.
hmm
Okay.
And then I'm also going to be doing Booked in Chaos, which is also another really great signing. And it was small, but just really awesome. And they're actually kind of
Hmm.
expanding and doing it bigger. And that'll be in Greenville, South Carolina. So,
Oh, I might come down to that. That's only an hour from
yes.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, you should
Okay.
do it. You should sign
Yep.
up.
Really? I don't
I
know.
mean, they
That might be
might.
a
I
good.
don't.
I could definitely look into it. I don't know if I would. I think I'd like to just go to one and experience it as a reader and kind
Yeah.
of get a sense of how it all works. That might be a good one to run down to. Okay, let me make a note of that. I might see you at what's it called?
Queers and
Hold
Quills?
on. No, the one down in Greenville.
Oh, yeah. Booked in Chaos.
Booked in Chaos. I'm going to write that
Yeah,
down. Okay.
it was great. I was really surprised.
Okay. All right, I'm going to write that down. Well, okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you so
You are
much.
always so welcome to come hang out in the Discord and visit with us. And please let us know as you release new books because we have some very feral book cultists for you.
Will do, will do.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. All right. Have a great rest of your
Thank
weekend.
y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.